Welcome to Mortflix or Mortgage Talk Live. And on today on Mortgage Talk Live, thank you for everybody that is watching this now live on all the Mortflix app or in the replay 24/7, 365 days in all the Mortflix app, Apple TV. Look for us in Amazon Prime, Roku, audio, iTunes video, iTunes podcast, iTunes video, iTunes audio, Spotify, iHeart. And today we have a special guest today because this is probably I think it's the second time that we do a in-house guest, a live on studio guest. So we are gonna introduce our guest once we present the show. Go ahead and take it away, Edgar. Welcome back to Mortflix or Mortgage Talk Live. And what is it that we do on Mortgage Talk Live? We talk to different personalities, different executives on the mortgage and real estate industry. Remember, Mortflix is related to mortgage and real estate and everything in between, I say. And today we have our first guest for the year in-house, in the studio. And I want to go ahead and welcome Matt Cox to Mortgage Talk Live. How are you, Matt?
I'm fine.
So today, I want to go ahead and get Matt interview, talk a little bit about his mortgage history, and so that way everybody can learn a little bit. He has a incredible story, a story of trials, tribulations, success, money. You're from Florida, native Florida, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and start from the beginning. You grew up in Florida. You've been living in Florida all the time.
With the exception of when I was on the run for 3 years, yeah.
Oh, you were on the run. Okay, we'll talk about that in a few. And your history is related to the mortgage industry. You were a mortgage. Were you a correspondent lender, loan originator, or a full mortgage broker at that point when you started?
A brokerage business.
Mortgage brokerage.
Right.
Okay, so that's how you started. And my understanding is you started with Eagle. It was at Eagle.
Eagle Lending.
Eagle Lending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody ever says that. Sorry.
Because I remember I'm in the industry.
Right.
I've been on the industry. I started in 97 as a realtor. 2002, I became a loan officer working for a correspondent. Then I switched to brokerage. So I know the industry. So we're probably gonna talk about a lot lingo, a lot mortgage brokerage, or a lot mortgage lingo. And Matt, you started doing mortgages around 97, 98?
Right. 98 probably. More like 98.
You started as a mortgage broker, sending loans to different lenders, whoever probably give you at that point, probably give you maybe the best rate or the best yield spread possible.
Well, no, I started with Eagle Lending. I was dating this chick, and she was working for Eagle Lending for maybe 3 or 4 months, and she was like, you got to come do this. And I was like, all right. So I went in and was interviewed by them, and then they flew me to North Carolina, and I was trained for 3 days, and they flew me back, and I started closing loans. I started originating loans, and within probably a couple weeks, I was there maybe just a couple weeks before I had my, not closed, but I had the first loan package ready to go, Okay. I think I closed like 4 loans.
Do you have any loan origination experience prior to that, or
couldn't balance my checkbook? No idea. No.
So you didn't know anything about?
No, by that point I did though. But I had been trained for 3 days. It's not rocket science. I mean, so we went over underwriting guidelines, how to qualify someone, and I took to it very quickly. Okay. So by the time I had my first package, it was perfect with the exception of a 30-day late. which, my manager told me, white it out. White it out, make a copy, stick it back in. There's no way they'll catch it. Don't worry. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And she was like, yeah. She's like, look, I do it all the time. It's
So you
were
freaking out at that point.
Yeah,
White out.
Yeah, I had no idea. So I didn't realize that was even a thing. Like to me, I thought the deal's dead. It's over. And so but I trusted her. So I whited it out. I stuck it in there. I sweated bullets for 4 or 5 days, and it went through underwriting.
Clear to close.
Clear to close. Get a check for $3,500. A week later, I was like, oh my God. At closing, we got a check, and I was like, oh my God. And Eagle origination fee. No, at closing. So at closing, when you get your origination fee, and then they took something like 30% of it or something. So
wow.
we thought we had like, I remember.
And do you know how many points they were making on the back?
Oh, they're making 4 and 5 points on the back. So
did you know about it? Or
no, I didn't know anything. I don't know. Well, because
okay, cool.
I've been trained by them, so I don't know anything. I mean, look, they were a lender, so I got trained by them, and they never mentioned anything about yield. I didn't know about yield spread till probably 8 months later, when the company, their credit lines got shut off, and basically they started closing offices. So I went and started I went to work for someone else briefly, but me and this girl that worked there, her name was Sandy. So Sandy and I grabbed like 20 or 30 files and went to another brokerage business, and we were going to have the other brokerage business close it, but they were like, okay, well, we called a bunch of account executives to come in, and they're going to look at your files. I was like, what's that? What's an account executive? And we had no idea. We had no clue. So the account executives come in, and they start looking through the files, and they're like, okay, this one I can do, this one, yeah. Right, so they start divvying them up, and we're like, and then they're like, okay, how much, what's the interest rate you were charging on this guy? And we're like, Eagle did piggybacks, right? So they did the first for like 80% and a second for 15%.
Oh, the 80-20s.
Oh, yeah. So the first, well, no, this is what 80-15. You still had to put down 5%. So what ended up happening?
So we didn't have any 20s at that point. Because I know during the boom, I closed a bunch of 80-20s, stated income even.
Yeah, but that was,
This was prior to
right.
that.
Well, this was an Eagle. Eagle was 80-15s. Eventually, they did 80-20s at some point, but we left with files that were like B files, 80-15s. The people had their 5% down, and we're paying closing costs, or they're paying the closing costs. And I remember, so the first mortgage is like 7.5%, and the second is 17.95%.
Oh my God!
So, and we got people lined up doing it. So I remember we went in, and the account executives are looking. They're like, "Well, I can get this guy 95% at 8% interest rate, or at 7.5%, or this," and then so our payments for these guys, our borrowers' payments are dropping left and right. They're expecting to pay $1,200 a month, and this guy can do it for $900 a month. We're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then they go, well, what kind of yield spread are you looking for? And we were like, what's yield spread? And they go, no, you don't understand. Here's what yield spread. You know what yield spread? And then they explained yield spread. They're like, look, if you add, 33 or 22 or 25, basis points to the rate, you get a point back. And we were like, are you serious? And they were like, yeah, look, you can, for 1 point, you're going to get 2 or 3 points back. We were like, oh my God. Wow. So those loans where we were walking away with $2,500 our end, now, even if we give the brokerage business 50%, now we're walking away with $3,000 and $4,000 on a loan. So I went to work for another company briefly, and then I went and started my own company. By that point, I figured out the system,
Edgar, go ahead and pull him on the shot, please. Can you hear me, Edgar? No, pull him on the shot.
What's the chart?
The shot. We're live. That's okay. Okay. If you want, Edgar, just put us together on the same shot. So that way you don't have to go back and forward. That's fine. I'll edit this later. Okay. So 8 months later, you find out about yield spreads.
Right.
You know that's how I started in the mortgage business. I was a little measly realtor showing a house here and there. Part-time. I was doing it part-time. I was school. And I had to show houses to my aunt. And took them a week, a month, or whatever. I found the house. I went to close. My commission was like $2,000 minus my broker split, couple of $100 more. So I ended up with less than $2,000. When I looked at that settlement statement, that lady that was doing the loan, well, that mortgage brokerage, whatever, $9,000.
Yeah.
$9,000 on the back end.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? And I opened a net branch at that point and I started doing mortgages ever since 2002, 2003. So, and then once you found out that about yield spread, that they're making this so much on the back end, for those that are watching this or listening, back end is, there used to be two ways to getting paid, front by the borrower and out back. On the back end, we used to call it yield spread. On the back end, I had to explain this because there's people.
Yeah.
On the back end, the lender that you were going to sell that loan to at the closing table that you were going to, originate that loan for, used to give you a certain amount of, we call it points. 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, which usually translate to 1% of the loan amount. So 3 points on a $100,000 loan is $3,000. And plus on those good old times, we call it, you were able to charge maybe 1, 2, depending how much a borrower could pay up front in the front end. And the borrower didn't know about the back end, so it was crazy. So what happened after that point? When you find out how much more money you could make, what happened on that point in your life? What did you decided to do?
Once I opened the brokerage business, then I hired, 10 or 12 guys,
Originators.
Yeah. They were brokers. Yeah. So yeah, they had to get their license. Then I became an FHA approved lender, and a VA approved lender. Of course, we were doing subprime and conventional, and did a little bit of advertising, but you have to understand, by that point, I'm regularly committing fraud. So at first it was the 30-day late. Then some guy came in with a W-2 and he made $42,000. But if he made $46,000, he could get the loan. So I have him make 46. I changed the 2 to a 6, changed a couple of numbers.
The documents.
Yeah.
The income docs.
Right. And then it becomes, you got some self-employed guy, and it starts off with he has a buddy that owns a company. You say, well, we'll say you work for his company for 5 years, and then I ended up having to make his pay stubs and W-2s, and then it just, then it got to the point where it's like I was tired of having to deal with these other guys who had, friends who had companies. So I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna buy a couple shell companies, and then I'll make a website for them, and I'll get business cards, and I'll do the whole thing, and then that way I'll always be able to verify these people's employee. So then I end up with having multiple companies out there and phone numbers, and I can, getting answering services to answer the phone numbers. And then it becomes an issue with banks, like you have the money to put down, or let's say the owner, the seller, is going to put down the money. Let's say it's a flip, it's an investment property. So it's an investment property, and some guy bought the house for $50,000, he's selling it for $100,000, and you don't have your 5%, but you have good enough credit to get a 95% loan. So you say, okay, so you jack up the purchase price a little bit, and you say, look, to the seller, look, I need you to bring $5,000 to closing, and you'll get it right back. He doesn't have his $5,000; he's got like $1,000. So we'll have you pay the closing cost. You bring the $5,000. Then when I would send the package in, I would say that my borrower had put down $1,000 and that he had $5,000 in the bank. Well, he doesn't have $5,000 in the bank. So we used to just we changed their bank statements, but the problem is every once in a while they would call the bank, and every once in a while maybe the bank says that's not true. He doesn't have that much money.
Yeah.
So what I did was I started creating false banks and putting them online. So I have online banks.
How much time did you have on your hands to do all this, to create all of this?
I got plenty of time. I've got 10 or 12 brokers under me. My only job is to make things smooth. So you become like an office manager. You know that. Like you're not closing loans anymore. Now I'm basically paying the bills, and bitching about, I'm complaining about, the credit report. $4,000 for pulling credit this month. It's ridiculous. I'm walking around like an old man screaming about people leaving the lights on. But in the meantime, guys are coming in saying, look,
Trust me, that still happens.
Yeah. I mean, people say, I got an issue with this, I got an issue with that. Because the same issues come up all the time, you start to figure out, you know what, I need to just make a company. I need to just create a fake this. So I created a fake Bank of Ybor, and I went and made fake monthly statements. And then I have a program, so I could change and put whatever needed to be in the bank account, and I would print out a couple bank statements on color paper, and then I remember we'd fold them up. I had envelopes made and everything. So we'd fold them up, and we actually mailed them. Like I would mail them to myself to get the stamp, or to the bar or whatever. So you got the stamp, you have the envelope, and you mail it, and you get it back, and we would actually send the originals to underwriting. And I remember they would get it, and they'd be like, oh my God, they'd call up and say, oh my gosh, you sent us we have colored ones. These must be the originals. And we'd go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you stamp that certified copy and send it back to us? Oh, sure, no problem. Now they think they got the original. They wouldn't even call. But if they did call, they got me, or they got one of my employees that answered the phone as, Bank of Ybor. So they're Bank of Ybor. And they would say, and if they said, hi, I'm calling on this, usually they'd say, I'm sorry, we need you to fax.
Do you have different phone lines for these two?
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. I've got a registered number under for Bank of Ybor. And back then, like, you could do it now. I mean, let's face it, like
you can whitepages.com or something like that, and you
right.
add it in.
Right, but not just that, you could go to the website. Like I had a whole website. You could go through the page. I mean, Bank of Ybor, it's a very small bank. It's a local bank in Ybor City, just outside of Tampa. It's all BS. Yeah. But if you read it, look, let me put it this way. When I got caught,
like login thing where people can log.
No, they can't. It's inactive. You can't log in, but they don't.
You had it like fake.
Oh yeah, it looked like
log into your account.
Right, it looked that way, but obviously it doesn't work. So I had a page on employment opportunities and all.
Were you the only one producing this, or do you have any other help around you?
No.
Helping you produce this stuff like they say like a Bernie made of that on the floor below his trading floor. He had the whole room helping him.
No. It's just me.
Okay.
And, I think that was a dramatization for TV, by the way. But on the Bernie Madoff thing. But no, all I did was it was just me. Like one of my brokers came in and said, "Look, man, I got this guy. Here's the issue. Bam, bam, bam. He's got the money, but he hasn't had it seasoned, and he does have it in his bank account. And, all right. So what's his name? Give me his name. You just type it up. I got a stack of bank statements. I just stick them in there and print out, change the month, and it populates the whole thing. And the numbers don't really change any. And then you could change them. Like you could put in what his car payment is, or whatever checks. Like I could make it look like he's been paying bills out of this account. So then you print it out on the paper. Now he's got an original. We can make a copy, or you can scan it, or you can whatever.
Was this on all your full volume or certain percentage? Come I figure people might just regularly qualify and you just get them the loan, but
I would say
everything?
No, maybe 50% of the loans, maybe 50-60% of the loans that went through had some kind of fraud.
Gotcha.
Something. Look, it was so that the bank websites were so good that when I got caught by the Secret Service and they debriefed me or interviewed me, they came in and they said, look, we need to talk to you about the money. I was like, okay, what money? And they were like, well, we recovered several $100,000 in this account, $400,000 in this one, $600 in this one. We've got the properties, we got this. They said, but we know you're still hiding money. And I went, what are you talking about? And they go, we know you're still hiding money, Mr. Cox. And I went, and they said, look, if you don't come up with the rest, give us the rest of the money, then you're going to get charged with obstruction. I was like, you're nuts, bro. I don't know. What are you talking about? And he pulled out 2 bank statements from Southern Exchange Bank of Clarksville and gave it to me. He goes, you're hiding over $200,000 in the name of Walter Holcomb in this bank right here. And I remember looked at it and I went, wow. I said, bro, I go, did you go to the bank website? And he goes, yeah. He goes, we already subpoenaed them. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah. And I went, and did you talk to anybody at the bank? And he goes, no, I've left several messages. I'm just waiting for a phone call back. I said, okay. I said, and you left a message? And he goes, yeah. And I went, really? I said, that's crazy. I said, what'd you think of the bank website? And he goes, it's a bank website. And I went, yeah, but it's professional though. It's like nicely done. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I mean, it's convincing. And he goes, oh, son of a bitch. And he goes, no. And I was like, he goes, you're kidding. And I go, it's all an illusion. Like that. And I go, the bank doesn't exist. I said, I made those bank statements. I go, who'd you subpoena? And he goes, no, we subpoenaed Southern Exchange Bank of Clarksville. I said, no, there's no Southern Exchange Bank of Clarksville. There is a Southern Exchange Bank that went out of business. And he goes, that's who we subpoenaed. I go, they went out of business 5 years ago. Like the registration number for the bank was still available. So, but it's out of business. And I couldn't even get the website. Bank.com because you know it was expired, but they wouldn't sell it because it's a bank website. Obviously, you could commit fraud. So I had to go a Southern Exchange Bank, Clarksville.com. So I mean, it was just so funny. He was like, "What the? Oh my God!" It'd been 6 months. No, it had been about 4 months. Had that stuff for 4 months. I was shocked that they were still able to leave messages. He called the phone number, and I go, I can't believe. I said, I haven't paid that phone bill in 4 months. And he goes, no, I'm telling you, we did it a couple weeks ago. And he said, I've left several. He dialed in and it went, boo-doo-doo. I'm sorry, but the phone number you've called. So I was like, see, I told you. He was like, son of a bitch. He couldn't believe it. I was like, that's it. And I just remember thinking, I was embarrassed that I got caught by these guys. I was like, I mean, what? I was like, are you serious? You thought that was a bank? I mean, this was the Secret Service. I was like, you're the Secret Service.
Yeah, they should have the list. So go to the federal whatever and check the database. FDIC, check their database.
He said when they checked the website that's the number that came up.
What year was this? 2000 something?
This would have been 2007 by the time I talked to them in 2007.
They have websites.
No, he pulled it up. It was a real bank. Don't you understand? That's what I'm saying. It was a real bank. They'd just gone under a few years earlier. But apparently they didn't. It doesn't say that
somewhere.
Right. It doesn't say that. Like, is this a bank? Yes, this is a number that was issued by this bank. It doesn't say. But it's closed now.
Did they get pissed off at you? Like,
no, because I told them immediately. Look, you just asked me, bro. I'd have told you 4 months ago if you asked me. So I'm like, yeah, this is what it is. And they were like, well, what do you? Remember the U.S. attorney was like, well, why do you even have a bank? Well, why would you make a bank? And I was like, it's great for everything. It's great for seasoning funds. It's great for deposits. I said, or down payments. I said, it's great for employment. I said, it's great for to provide any type of references. I said, anything. I said, I use a bank for anything like that. And I was like, it's extreme credibility. And she was just like, all right, let's move on. I mean, why?
Okay, so let me go back a little bit. So prior to this,
right?
Was the money that you were making decent, good, freaking awesome, average? What was your average monthly? You were making 50, 60, 100, 200. Between let's say the fraud part, how much were you?
Well,
the question I'm asking this is to make it. Is it worth it? Was it worth it?
I mean, no, bro. I spent 12 and a half years in prison. That's not worth it. What kind of question is that? What's going on? No, it's not worth it. But at the time, I'm getting away with it. I don't think it's a big deal. I think there's no way you can get, for what I'm doing, every couple of loans, you change a 2 to a 6, you make a W-2. And keep in mind, even when I got caught, it was very easy. Let's say one of my brokers gets caught. Let's say I get a phone call from Washington Mutual. They say, oh, this is what we just found out. You're brokered this, you're brokered that. What? Okay, well, I'm going to call him in here and ask him about it. He comes in, I go, bro, this is what they said. And they're like, oh, Jesus, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. Because they think I own the brokerage business. They think we're together.
Yeah.
We're seeing eye to eye here. I'm on your side, Washington Mutual. My broker did what? That bastard. I'll talk to him right now. And then, of course, I talked to him. He's like, okay, I go, okay, what happened? Here's what they said.
Who signed the 1003s? The brokers, right?
Yeah, the broker. Well, and the borrower.
The borrower.
So right, so they come in, and I explain, this is what they just said. Boom, what's going on? We look at the file. I go, okay, great. Here's what we're going to say. And I call them back. I go, okay, listen, I talked to the broker. That's what they gave. The borrower came in. The borrower this and the borrower. So are you telling me that the borrower doesn't work there? And then we would go, and then now they're like, that's what we think. We think the borrower. So now it's like, oh my God, what did this borrower do? I'm not taking the blame. My broker's not. Now I've been caught red-handed. I had a broker one time. I used to make what appeared to be canceled checks. Okay, so they were, they were front and back canceled checks, $600, $800, whatever your rent was, right? Mm-hmm. So I've got canceled checks, and all you had to do is swap it out. So they were blank. But they had the routing numbers, with the old canceled checks, they got the routing numbers and how much they went through for everything. So, and then I would have them stamped on the back, Utopia Property Management Company, deposit into the bank of Utopia Property Management Company. And then a phone number. You could call the phone number and it would ring to one of my phones. So, everything I did was designed to lead back to me so I could verify it, or back to some entity I controlled. Towards the end, that's what I figured out was me, if you come and try and get a loan from me and say, oh, my buddy Jimmy, he'll verify that I work there, it's no good, okay? Because the truth is 6 months from now, if something happens and they call back, or even in 2 weeks from now, like I usually, how many times I would go, okay, so your buddy Jimmy will do it, and he owns a business. Yeah, he owns a business, been around 10 years. He's going to say, I work for him. Okay, great. I pick up the phone, I call the number, and Jimmy answers the phone like, hey, what's up? Who's this?
What up?
Yeah. You're like, yeah, is this Bay Area Gutters? Oh, yeah, who's this? I can't have Jimmy answer the phone. I can't have underwriting or a processor call and have Jimmy answer the phone. Yo, what's up? I need him to answer, Bay Area Gutters, how may I help you? And he has to answer that way 6 months from now. So I can't trust Jimmy. Jimmy's a jerk. Yeah. We can't deal with Jimmy. So it got to the point where anytime the borrowers tried to provide anything or help, it was like, to scratch whatever you gave me. Mm-hmm. The numbers are wrong. Jimmy's a jerk. He's not going to answer the phone right. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's Jimmy and it's 3 drunk guys trying to put up gutters. That doesn't mean he's got a business. Mm-hmm. Does he have a tax ID number? Do you start asking all those questions that Jimmy needs? Does he advertise? Does he, have a website? Does he? It breaks down very quickly. Mm-hmm. So you realize, okay, better to just create my own companies. Periodically, I'll use those companies. Create my own banks. Periodically, I'll do that. So
and everything was under your name or different?
No.
Fictitious name.
Nothing's under my name. So what ended up happening was I had this one borrower. I would make these fake canceled checks. Sometimes I had from different banks. Some of them were from, whatever, SunTrust. Some are from Bank of America, whatever. So depending on if your borrower makes $800 or has an $800 rent payment or $1,100 rent payment, you come in, you say, hey, can I get some Bank of America checks for $1,100? Sure. Give him some 24 months worth of canceled checks. All he has to do is change the label at the very top, right? Where it says your name and address, change that to his borrowers, and then write in whatever the rent, the rent is $1,100. You can see it went through for $1,100, so we have to put $1,100 and sign your borrower's name. And your borrower, we would have the borrowers do it. Wow. So they'd come in and do that. We then make copies of them, stick it in the file, send it to underwriting.
That's for rent verification, right?
Correct, to verify your rent, because they don't have a management company. Now, I had a management company too, but you and I both know that canceled checks are you can't get any better.
That's more solid than
absolutely
somebody signing a POR somewhere.
Right. So we send it off. Well, this is the problem. This one guy had sent it to Pinnacle Bank in Chicago. Now, the problem with Pinnacle Bank is this guy had used, instead of continually swapping them out and sometimes going with SunTrust, Washington Mutual, different banks, he just had every one of his borrowers that went through him, he said, oh, his rent's $1,100. So he's sending the same canceled checks to Pinnacle Bank over and over and over.
Probably the same underwriter.
Right. Of course, the underwriter gets 2 packages. Both of them say the exact same thing. She looks at the canceled checks and goes, oh, what the hell? Looks at them, calls the owner in. He looks at him. He calls me. He says, listen,
yeah, we had a situation about a year or so ago. One MLO here, sending loans to the same lender, same employer.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, my partner gets a call, complete cluster fuck, and yeah. Thank God she said it. And now that lender is one of my board members here in Mortflix. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, well, because it happens,
Yeah.
a lot. So anyway, that the owner called me and said, "Look, this is what's going on."
The
And I
owner
was-
for Pinnacle.
yeah,
Call you, okay.
and he was like, matter of fact, this
And
is
you
like,
were, what are you talking about?
why? Oh, of course. What are you talking? I don't know what you're talking. No, and I remember he even said, he's like, because you don't know anything about this. I said, of course I don't know. He said, we have an issue. He said, one of your brokers, and I go, a rogue broker. And he goes, oh, he said, yeah, he's a rogue broker because you don't know anything about this, do you? I said, absolutely not. What did he do? What did he do? Not me, not my company. What did he do? Well, here was the problem. Like, he came in and sat down and is listening to me, and I'm sitting there looking at him like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I remember his name. His name was Eddie LaFuente. I think he's like a realtor or something today. And he was so funny. But, he was lazy. So he's like looking at me like shaking his head. Well, it turns out that they had pulled all the
they get comfortable, and that's how they get caught.
Well, Pinnacle, they had pulled all of his files. So there's like a couple $1 million in loans that have closed with these canceled checks. And here's the thing. They'd sold like $1 million of those loans to Household Bank. So is Household Bank still around?
No.
They went under? Nice. I love it when I talk about stuff and people are like, oh man, they went under like 10 years ago.
A lot of stuff.
Household Bank, right? Do you remember them? They were huge.
Yeah.
So they had sold it to Household Bank. So now you're Pinnacle and you know that you sold $3 million worth of loans. $1 million of loans are bad in that batch. What is the ethical thing to do?
Just the ethical thing will be to...
You got to call them.
Hey, call them up.
It bothers
hey,
it.
I did send you about $1 million in.
Right. It bothers me that it took you so long to respond to that. Okay. So obviously, an ethical person would have immediately said, "You've got to notify Pinnacle Bank immediately. We have to try and correct this." Now, obviously, you can't buy the million, but at the very least, you need to contact them and explain the situation. Here's what's going on. You need to do the ethical thing. Mm-hmm. You don't want them to end up being a package of some bad loans that are stuck in some kind of fraudulent vehicle that'll bring down the entire economy. So obviously, you contact them. Well, Pinnacle, being a bank, being extremely ethical, and having a fiduciary responsibility to their investors, did what is considered the right thing to do in the banking industry. They said, "All right, well, listen, we're not going to notify Pinnacle. we're not going to notify Household Bank. We have another $1 million worth of bad paper that we're about to sell to Household Bank in another $3 or $4 million package. We're not going to say anything. However, Mr. Cox, you have to promise me that if any of these loans come back on us, you'll help us get rid of the loans." I said, "Of course." Guy's name was Gary. Of course, Gary. Of course. I that's a given. I mean, I already know there's very little likelihood that they're going to catch it 6 months later if it goes under. Really, there's very little likelihood it's going to go under at all. So the point is
What year was this when he called you?
This is 2000
and the reason that is to measure
2001, 2002.
This was way before the subprime 2003, 2002, and 2003.
But here, you know what? People always crack me up about the subprime thing. They're always like, "Oh, you were doing those liar loans. You were doing those, stated income." I wasn't doing. No, even when they were available, I wasn't. Why would I do them? I have 6 companies, and I have multiple banks, and I have all of these. I can make. I don't need. I can make you I can make you a full doc borrower and just charge you 3 points on the back of the loan and a $3,500 broker fee, and I can make $8,000, or I can take you stated income and make $2,000 and get very little in the back because the lender's jacked up the rate so high, or you don't qualify. You have to put down more money. So why would I do that? Why wouldn't I?
So you didn't participate much on the subprime.
No. So all
income stated as a pick a pay type of.
Right. There was no reason. I can get you a conventional loan at 5 or 6% back then. Why would I do that?
When a subprime was probably 7.
Right. So why would I do? Why wouldn't I just charge a couple more points and go conventional? So my point is that we did that, and that those types of things, I got caught like that all the time, and then eventually I ended up getting caught for it was really is what's happening. I had done a bunch of loans I had bought a bunch of properties. I was also flipping houses. So I bought a bunch of properties for $40,000,
And this
$60,000.
is on the Tampa area?
Tampa area.
Okay.
But mostly in Ybor City. So I would buy properties for 50, 60 grand. And then I would fix them up. But I didn't want to have to deal with seasoning. I don't want to wait to get my money back. I don't want to refinance it. So I bought it for 50. I put 30 in it. It's worth 200 at this point. But I don't want to have to wait a year to try and refinance it. So I would just sell it to my wife at the time. And she never took my maiden name. We always had different addresses. We lived together, but I made sure to make sure she was separate from me. Gotcha. So I would sell it to her, but I couldn't sell it. I couldn't broker the loan myself because I'm the owner of the house. So what I did was I just ran it through another company. Well, eventually that company, the people that own that company, they got in trouble. And then when the FBI showed up, they told the FBI, we know about a guy who owns another mortgage company. He's got like 12 employees, and they're doing fraud every single day. There's got to be $1 million worth of fraud going through his place. I was like, oh, shit. So they come, they wear a wire on me. I bury myself. They call the FBI. FBI calls me. I call a lawyer. I pay a lawyer 75 grand. He pleads me out. I get 3 years paper because there was no dollar loss. There was no potential dollar loss. So I basically end up with lying on an application is what it boiled down to, and I got it was a wire fraud. So I got 3 years probation, but I couldn't own the mortgage company anymore. And so, the right thing to do was
look for something else.
Yeah, but what am I trained to do? I mean, if you quit being a broker, what are you really trained to do? There was no YouTube. Being a YouTube personality isn't a thing. There's nothing else for me to do unless I want to flip properties or something. So I decide, instead of claiming bankruptcy, keep in mind I have like $8,000 or $9,000 a month in bills. I'm getting a divorce. That wipes me out. I'm broke. I'm going under. I have a ton of debt. And I thought, I could claim bankruptcy and move into my parents' spare room and try and start over and sell cars or something. Maybe eke out a living making $40,000 a year. But I just decided, what I'm going to do? I'm going to start flipping properties. That's what I'm going to do. Have you ever flipped properties?
My girlfriend is on that.
Okay.
I'm not personally not, but my girlfriend, she does, and she just got her first house, couple of months fixing it, and now it's on the market. But she got it for pretty cheap and a couple of $1,000, and now she's flipping. Well,
I actually just put out a video on my YouTube channel about flipping properties, how to flip them. It's like 55 minutes, but it's a pretty good video. It explains there's just lots of things you can do to just maximize your ability to flip properties. So
I'll check it out. Maybe I'll have it put it in on Mortflix. You send it to me and I'll put it in.
Okay.
That way people can see it.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later.
All right. So what price range does the girlfriend flip houses in? Is this middle class area or lower middle class?
This is like low.
Low middle class, lower middle.
Here in Kissimmee.
Yeah.
So it's kind of 192 area, middle low. She's listing it for like 210, but I'm telling her, listen, she just got a cash offer, 180. I told her, listen, grab her, because the 210 is not going to happen. Oh, you want to go FHA? It's not going to happen because the FHA is going to start looking for comps and all of this, and it's not going to price at 210, or it's not even going to price at 200, 190. Just, if you got a cash offer at 180, call the lady tomorrow, and this was last night. Call the lady tomorrow and grab that offer, because you're not going to sell it for 210. There's no way.
Well,
this is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house over here in downtown and close to downtown Kissimmee.
Well, I had a similar issue. My issue was that it's a lower middle class area. Houses are appraising for around 100 grand. I could buy a crack house for 40 or 50 grand, but then I got to put 25 in it, and maybe I can make 25. But let's face it, the borrowers in those areas, they're not great borrowers. They do stupid stuff like quit their jobs 2 weeks before closing, or they go and spend their down payment money. These are not stable people. They have bad credit. They decide like the month before they're going to close, like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not pay my rent this month, and that way, because I'm already qualified. No, you're not. So they don't know. They do stupid things.
Yeah.
And I thought, I always have such problems with these borrowers. And since I'm not the one who's going to really, it's an issue. So I was like, you know what I need to do? I have multiple problems here. One, buying the houses for 40 and 50, and then they appraise at 100,000. There's not enough profit there. There's really no, you end up making 20,000, maybe 15 or 20, and you really have to be flipping 4 or 5 properties at the same time to make.
Were you selling this for sale by owner or what? Actually, you were
I'm not doing anything, because I before I even start, I already realized it's basically you end up being like a construction worker. Yeah. Is what you end up being like a manager, and you have a lot of stress.
Not enough money for the work.
Right. So I thought
dealing with handymans and people rebuilding.
Exactly.
They come drunk. They come the next day, or they don't.
You got to watch the video I just put out, bro. Okay. You're gonna be like, oh my god! Like I start telling, listen, here's what you got to do. You got to do this. You got to say this. You got to. Because, when they show up, they're like, man, we'll be done by Tuesday for sure, blah, blah. I'd be like, so are you telling me you swear you're going to, absolutely, you're positive? Yeah, great. I need you to sign this right here. Every day you're past Tuesday, it's $100 a day. Oh, I don't know about that, bro. Well, what are you talking about? Well, I don't know about all that.
You just told me you were going to finish on time.
Right, so you think there may be an issue. Okay, great. So when? Maybe Thursday. What do you mean maybe Thursday? So no, for sure. Great. Sign here Thursday. You don't know how many times these guys, I get these guys we get them left and right. Yeah. Because they're liars. They're all drunks and liar, and then they're just all full of it. And so, I would just hammer them. My point is that, so I had an issue with flipping houses. So I knew right away I was going to have an issue. There's not enough money in it. My bills are too much. I got to flip to all these houses right away as quickly as possible. I've got borrowers that suck. So what do you do? So there's really like 3 major, there's really about 2 major problems. One major problem is the home, 3. There's 3 major problems. One, you have to buy the properties, and every time you buy a property for 40 or 50,000, you damage the value of the area, right? So I'm buying houses for 50,000 and they're appraising for 100. Well, now those are now comparable sales. So I'm really not helping the area. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I don't want to be buying these things for 50, because then the lenders are like, well, you bought it for 50. How much you put into it? And you're like, what does that have to do? It's appraising at 100. So I thought, I would have that happen when you start having to show them all these receipts and everything. So you go, you know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to record the value. I bought it for 40 or 50. I'm going to record the value at 100. And then I went, you know what? Why do that? Why not just jack it up to 200? The whole area is going to go up. Bought 4 or 5 houses and recorded the value at 200. I could use those all as comparables. That's what I'm going to do. So now I got an issue. People aren't going to buy it for 200,000, and the borrowers suck anyway. So here's what I'm going to do. If I created my own borrowers, then I don't need new borrowers. I can just use my own people. So I thought that's the better bet. So I figured out how to create synthetic identities. And what I did was I started with like a 2-year-old social security number and just pulled the pulled the credit and nothing shows up. And then of course, I figured out, then I pulled it again, but now instead of it saying no file found, then now it said, that there was a profile, a credit profile, and that there was an inquiry from me. And now all the data showed up, the age, everything, because I changed his date of birth. And I was
you were building the profiles.
I was figuring it out. So then what I did was I eventually ended up going to Social Security, and I figured out how to get.
You didn't know, other than your mind doing this, you didn't know about somebody else doing this. They teach you.
No, I just social engineering. I just started making phone calls. So I started calling Social Security over and over. I said, hey, look, I'm 30. How old was I then? 32, 33. I was like 33. I said, look, I'm 33 years old. So I'm 33 years old. I've never had a Social Security number issued to me. How can I get one issued? And they come back and they go, well, that's not possible. I go, what do you mean? It's not possible for you to be 33. Do you have a driver's license? Yes. Well, then you have one. Do you have a credit card? Do you have a bank account? I'm like, oh shit. I hang up the phone. You call back and you go, hey, look, I'm 33 and I've never had this. I've never had a Social Security. And they go, do you have a driver's license? And I'm like, and this is a different person. I'm like, well, no, I don't. And they're like, you have a bank account? Nope. You have a credit card? No. Were you born in a hospital? Yeah, I was born in a hospital. Well, then you have a social security number. You hang up the phone. So then you call it. You go think. And I remember seeing something on midwives. So I called up. I said, hey, I have a kid. He's 10 months, or I have a kid. He's 5 years old, and he was born with a midwife at home. They said, okay, and he's 5. I said, yes. And they said, you have a birth certificate? I thought, I can make a birth certificate. I thought, yeah, I got a birth certificate. Okay, great. Bring your son and the birth certificate in, and if he has not had one issued,
we'll issue one.
We'll issue one. Damn it. I don't have a kid I can drag in there. So I'm like, damn. So here's what. So then I call back and I go, okay, well here, I got a kid. He's like a daughter, 4 years old, but my wife is from Brazil and took my daughter, and she's in Brazil, but I'm claiming, and they're going to be there for the next 3 months visiting her family, and I'm claiming my taxes and I need the SOCH to claim the dependent. And they go, was your daughter born? Nope, and not born with a midwife. Oh, okay. And they go, shoot. They said, how old is she? I was like, 3. And they go, yeah, 3, she's got to come in. I was like, well, she can't come in. They went, yeah, but she's 3. Like, if she was under 12 months old, she wouldn't have to come in. Boom, hang up the phone, call back. Hey, my name is so-and-so, and here's what I've got. I've got a 4-year-old son. Go through the whole thing again. I said, I said, I've got a 10-month-old son. And then I go through the whole thing, and they go, oh, you need to bring in the birth certificate and the shot record. Why a shot record? Because we need to prove that he's still alive, that he's regularly getting shot, and that there's a child that's getting shots. That's because you can't bring him in. You don't have to bring him. I go, I really don't want to bring him in. He's with my wife in Brazil. No, I understand. Just bring in this, and you're okay. Okay, great. Boom, hang up. So I manufacture a birth certificate and shot record. I go in there, and I put it all down, and they look, and they check the computer, and they come back, and they go, wow, that's funny. You're right. Your son's never had a social security number issued. Okay, hold on. They do a little typing, and they go, okay, it'll be at your, we'll mail it to your P.O. box in 10 days. Or whatever it was, my mailbox. I'm like, great. A week later, boom, I got a social security number issued to a 10-month-old child that doesn't exist. And you could pick any name you want.
And
so
how many fake babies have you created?
Oh, God. 30, 40. Eventually I figured out how to I started manufacturing my own driver's licenses, right? I figured out how to make driver's licenses for these guys so I could open bank accounts. Because what I did was, with those guys, I would create a credit profile by ordering cards that would get denied. And then I would get 3 secured credit cards, make the payments. In 6 months, these guys had 700 credit scores. So now I've got a SOCH, I got 3 credit cards. I can manufacture W-2s and pay stubs. You can call and verify them. They're to companies that are registered, companies that have tax ID numbers that have been around for years. You can call the phone. They've got websites. I've got everything. So I can, on paper, this person exists. So I've made multiple guys like this. And then I went into Ybor City and I started buying houses. I bought houses for, for $40,000. And then I would go downtown and record the deed for $200,000 or $190 or $195 or $205 or $185, whatever. So whatever based on the square footage. I gave the square footage
and the county or the state didn't research that because they're getting the stamps on the deed and whatever.
They don't, because
instead of getting $10 for a quick clean deed, they're getting a couple of $100, if not more.
A couple thousand. Yeah, because it's $700 for every 100,000. So 200,000, that's $1,400. Well, first of all, they don't care because I'm just doing what this is the normal form. There's nothing to raise red flags. And secondly, it's a recording system. They don't verify anything. There's nobody there to say, okay, make sure you call the bank, or, hey, did you call the seller to make sure? Nobody does that. They record it. They scan it and record it. That's all they do. So once I bought, each one of these guys would buy like 5 houses.
Each.
So they buy 5 houses. They've got credit cards. They've got 700 credit scores. And then once they've owned the house for a couple weeks, we then order an appraisal.
Different lenders.
Oh, yeah, of course. We clean up the property. I go inside. Instead of spending $25,000, you spend $5,000. You just clean up the outside of the house real good. So from the street, it looks amazing. So then, of course, I get an appraiser to come by and take pictures of the house. And he doesn't go inside. He just does a drive-by. And he sees the comparable sales, and he says, "Yeah, this thing comes in at 205 or 190 or whatever. You bought it for 190, and it's coming in at 105, or it's coming. You bought it for 190,000, and I can get it appraised at 192,000.
Gotcha.
Perfect, because if you stick with the square footage, then they're all pretty perfect. It's right in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And then the area starts to bring $130 a square foot. That's just what pretty much the appraisers at this point, everything around there is selling for $130, $140 a square foot. You got a 1,500 square foot house selling for 200 and change.
You inflated the market by yourself.
Yeah. Forbes said that, Forbes magazine said that Ybor City was in 2003, Ybor City was one of the top 10 fastest growing zip codes in the nation, because I'd taken the area from 50,000 up to 250,000.
Wow.
And the FBI said I bought and did this with 109 houses. Now, that's not true, by the way. I know that's a lie. That's absolutely untrue. There's no way I did that many houses, but I can't remember all the houses. But there was a bunch of people, and so I did this. They would buy the house. They'd pull out. This guy owns 5 houses for $200,000 a piece. He refinances them. He gets about $900,000 to $1 million worth of mortgages on the houses. Makes a few payments and lets them all go into foreclosure. And of course, also I run up his credit cards. By this point I've got $20,000-$30,000 credit cards. He can get another $30,000 or $40,000 in personal loans. So I get all that. Of course, I make some payments and then I let them all go. And then when the houses went into foreclosure and the collection agents start calling, I would send a copy of an article that I copied out of. I'd retyped it out of the newspaper, and I inserted my borrower's name into it, where it's like a 12-car pileup, and somebody was life flighted to Tampa General Hospital, and he's in a coma. Well, I would put my guy's name in there, and I'd print that out, and I'd make a copy, and I'd highlight it, and then I'd write a letter from my fictional borrower's sister saying, "Look, John was in James was in a car accident. He's in a coma. The doctors say even if he wakes up, he'll never work again. I understand you're foreclosing. You might as well just go ahead and foreclose. We're not going to fight it." And that's it. They'd stop. That's it. They stop. They stop sending letters. They just start the foreclosure process. It happens.
Wow.
And when they get the house back, they don't know that a fraud has been committed. Because even when they get the house back and the realtor says, "Look, I want to put this house on the market for $100,000, they say, "Well, what are you talking about? We have an appraisal for $200,000. She says, "No, it's only worth $100,000, in my opinion." Then they send out an appraiser, because even if they think fraud, when the appraiser comes out, they go, "Jesus, it's still appraising for $200,000. The comps are everywhere." And she says, "Yeah, but it's trashed inside, and this is wrong, and that's wrong." They go, "Gosh, okay, so that happens." Yeah. It happens. The yard's overgrown with weeds. Somebody's been in the house. It's trashed. Doesn't even look like it was ever. This is, keep in mind, by the time they foreclose, it's been a year. So they don't know what happened in that year. And it's in a bad neighborhood. By this point, someone's kicked in the door. They're using it as a crack house. And she just tells them that, "Look, it's a crack house. There's like 6 guys living in here. And it's in the bad neighborhood. It's been trashed." So they think, "Damn, we lent $190,000. It went into foreclosure, and some guys moved in, and it's trash now. Put it on the market for $75,000, $100,000, whatever." So they don't even know they don't even know they got ripped off for $120,000 or $140,000. That they have an asset worth.
A year or more later, yeah.
And now the comps are everywhere. Listen, so. Look, it was so bad. This is what happened one time, is that I remember.
And at this point, do you have any feeling that somebody was looking into you, watching you? So it was just
none.
Gotcha.
I remember there was an old guy that owned some house one time, right? Keep in mind the comparables are everywhere. So when we first started buying up houses, they were everywhere. So I remember going to this guy one time saying, "Hey, I'll buy your place here, this old rental property you have." And I said, "Yeah, I want $60,000 for it." I said, "60?" I said, "Bro, it's not. This thing's barely even worth $40. I'll give you $40. We'll close in 10 days." He's like, "I want $60,000. Yeah, I'm not paying $60. And I leave. 3 months later, I come back and go, "I'll give you $60. Give you $60. And he goes, I want 75. 75? The hell are you? No, I'm not paying. You said 63 months ago. I want 75. It's worth 75. No, leave. Listen, 8-10 months later, there's nothing left. We bought everything. It's either all the other properties are either in foreclosure or they've been scooped up by other investors because they think the whole area is booming now. So you go back to the old guy and say, look, okay, I'll give you 75,000, and the guy goes, I want 100,000. I go, where are you getting these prices? He goes, it's worth it. He said, that house down the street sold for 200. That one sold for 205. That one sold for 195. What am I supposed to say? It's like, they didn't really sell for that. I'm manipulating the market. Like I was working against myself. I'm like, I'm shooting myself in the foot by creating this market. And it's working so well that I can't buy anything. So we started paying ridiculous prices for these places. And that's why we had to jack it up even higher. By the time I left, we were recording.
I don't make a profit.
Oh, we're recording stuff at $350,000. I mean, we're just gonna have to keep going up.
Was that whole area a depressed type?
Oh, it was horrible. It's extremely depressed. Ybor City, extremely depressed area at the time.
Gotcha.
And so anyway, yeah. So I did that, and we borrowed like I think the FBI said $11.5 million. In like 18 months, maybe more. Maybe it was 20 months. It wasn't 2 years, under 2 years. So at some point, the FBI comes to arrest me. And, obviously, I was already on probation, remember? So, and my mortgage company was being run by a guy named Dave Walker, who was a friend of mine. And he's paying me like $8,000 a month because I just transferred that mortgage. I had by that point we had 3 different locations, and so we had 2 locations. That's why we closed one and moved it. So we had 2 locations. So he's paying me that, and so the FBI comes to. So he's involved, like everybody's involved, and so the FBI comes to arrest me, and a buddy of mine who was a sheriff's deputy who I'd done a bunch of loans for, got tipped off that it was happening. And so he tells me, look, the FBI is coming to arrest you in a couple of days. So I was like, oh, shit. So I remember I pulled out about $80,000 in cash out of the bank. I had people cash checks within a day. That's all I could get. It's like a Friday. It's like a Thursday. I find out Thursday at like 4 o'clock. So the next day I get $80,000 in cash, and then I take off. But I didn't have any money, like $80,000. Like you can't live on $80,000. So not the way I was living.
And this is when you went on the run.
Yeah. So I went on the run. I went to where did I go? I went to I went to Atlanta. So I went to Atlanta, and I ran a scam in Atlanta. I rented a guy's house. Do we need to wrap it up?
No.
I can wrap it up.
No. Go ahead. No, he's telling me with the screen. That's fine. So you went to Atlanta.
It's
so
funny.
you didn't go out of state? I mean, out of the country? You stay here.
Out of the country a lot of times. I've had 24 passports issued to me by the State Department.
While in the run?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
So it's funny. Did you ever see the movie War Dogs?
Yes.
Ephraim Deveroli, the guy that Jonah Hills plays.
Yes.
Yeah, he just texted me. Guy wrote his memoir.
Oh. Cool.
So we were in prison together.
Oh, cool.
Is that what I showed you? No.
Don't erase it.
No, that's. No, he texts me all the time. He's all right. I actually sued him.
That movie was crazy.
The book is that movie doesn't even do justice to what really happened.
The book is better.
Oh, of course. He's an amazing individual. Ruthless but brilliant. So my point is, when I take off on the run and I go, and I don't really have that much money, so I rent somebody's house. I rent the guy's house. I go down to public records, and I satisfy his mortgages. And then I make a fake ID in his name. And then, I don't know his date of birth. I don't have his social security number. I just have his name. And I only have his name from what he said to me, off of the mortgage. So he had 2 loans with Bank of America. So I create 2 false satisfactions from Bank of America, and I record them. So now the house is free and clear. I use a different social security number, different date of birth, but his name. And I call 3 hard money lenders, and they come out to the house, one at 11 o'clock, one at 2 o'clock, and one the next day at 1 o'clock. And they all say, yeah, this house is worth about $200,000, and I'll lend you $150,000. So I close with all three of those at three different title companies, and I get roughly a little bit over $400,000.
Oh my God.
And then I deposit those into banks in multiple different people's names. By this point, I've figured out how to get the state driver's license bureaus, right, to issue me driver's licenses in other people's names.
Wow.
So by this point, I'm stealing identities instead of creating fictitious. Because I can't. If you create a fictitious identity, I can't get a driver's license in this guy's name, right? So now I'm actually going and I figured out how to. I started surveying homeless people. So I would make a statistical survey form, and I'd go out and I'd say, "Hey, excuse me, I work for the Salvation Army. We're taking surveys to try and determine where we're going to place our next indigent facility." They'd go, "Oh, yeah, I'm not interested." I go, "No, it pays $20 cash right now. You got to answer 17 questions. Take 5 minutes. You got $20 cash right now? Right now, $20. Show them the money. Yeah, what do you need? Name, date of birth, social security number, mother's maiden name, where were you born, where did you go to high school, have you been in the military, have you ever had a passport issued, what states have you had identification in, do you currently have a driver's license, do you, boom, 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 thank you very much, here's your $20, you walk away. I go get on a computer, I order their birth certificate, I order their I get an application for a birth certificate, I then order the birth certificate, I order a copy of their social security card, and keep in mind, obviously, you can't just fill out the form and send it in. I also need to send along a copy of a driver's license or
like a mini package.
What do you mean?
Like a mini package. You have to build a package.
Right. So I have to. They're like, I have to prove that I'm this person. So they want a copy of his driver's license. Well, I can already make a fake driver's license. Or what I really would do, because Social Security wants the original. So what I would do with Social Security was I would make a fake employer badge and mail the badge. So I'd make a copy of the same badge to get the birth certificate, and then I'd take the real badge, stick it in with Social Security, and mail it off. And I'd get all the stuff back within a week or two, and I'd register to vote in their name, and I'd and then I'd go into the DMV, whatever state they didn't have a driver's license in. So if I met them in South Carolina, I'd then go to North Carolina, or I go to Alabama. And I walk in with all the documents, and that's it. I show them the documents. They look it up. They go, okay, great, stand over there. Stand over there, get my picture taken, give them $40, $50, boom, they give me my driver's license, I leave. Now I've got a real driver's license. I can go open bank accounts. So I'm doing all of this, and then I'm refinancing these houses, and I put the money in the bank accounts, I pull the money out, and I get the money, and then I leave. And that's when the Secret Service got involved. And then so I did that in Atlanta, did it in Tallahassee, then I went to South Carolina, and I borrowed $1.3 million on a couple houses there. Then I went to, where did I go then? Oh, then I went to, I almost got caught. I actually got arrested in the bank in South Carolina and brought downtown, and I convinced them that I hadn't done anything wrong. They arrested me as a guy named Gary Sullivan. So, but I convinced them that I hadn't done anything wrong. What are you talking about? I mean, so I have 3 mortgages. What's the big deal? So they didn't really understand what was happening, even though the head of Wachovia Bank was telling them, the head of the fraud department at Wachovia Bank was telling them this guy is running a shotgunning scam. It's illegal. It's fraud. I didn't have any arrests. I didn't have it. Like they were like, this doesn't make sense that this guy. So he borrowed some money on a house.
Clean record.
Right. Well, and he borrowed money on a house. What's the problem with that? And they're like, they're all first mortgages. But you keep in mind, your mortgage, when they record your mortgage, it doesn't say it's a first mortgage. The placement determines whether it's first, second, or third. So if you're in second position, you're in second position. I'm sorry that the title company didn't put you in first position. My other mortgage from the other title company showed up 4 hours earlier or 2 days earlier. So that's not my fault. And I'm going, what are you talking about? I said, that they don't say first mortgages. I went to this bank, and this bank told me they could only lend me so much, and I should go. This loan officer said she had a friend that could get me the rest of the money, so I went there, and then she said she got a friend that could give me a HELOC. I mean, I don't know anything. I'm a guy, I work at a labor company. Look, I've been on the job 5 years. I mean, what are you talking about? I just moved to this area. So I'm like, what's going on? They were like, well, I know. I'm sorry, Gary. It's just, they're screaming out. I don't even know what to charge you with. I'm like, that's crazy. So they let me go. They arrest me. They bring me downtown. Then they let me go. I go get money out of a couple more banks. And then I take off, almost got caught again by the U.S. Marshals in North Carolina, in Charlotte, North Carolina. Great city. Lived there for a while downtown. So that was really a good time. So then I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and I borrowed, is it $3.5 million on a bunch of houses there?
Wow.
And yeah, and you asked if I had ever traveled anywhere. Yeah, I've been while I was on the run. I've been to Mexico, Jamaica, Bermuda. I went to Croatia. Went to Italy. I've been to yeah, I've been all over the place, bro. But always on false passports. Like, if you can get a driver's license, it's not hard to get the State Department to issue you a passport. So if I get a driver's license in the name of Walter Holcomb, I can easily get a passport in the name of Walter. So I would just get a passport too. So I've had like 24 passports.
Wow.
So anyway, eventually there was a bunch of articles that had been written on me, and so what I did was, so the articles had been written, and I've been on the local news a few times, but it's local news, not a big deal, right? Like, it's not going to catch up with you. Mm-hmm. And I was in Fortune magazine, and Bloomberg Business Week came out. They came out with 2 articles. That made me nervous because when I saw that article, I was actually in my dentist's office. So, because I was on the run, but I still want to have nice teeth. So, so I'm in the dentist office and I see the article. And I'm like, oh my God, that's me. This is a problem. But I really was okay. I wasn't concerned. But then Dateline NBC News was going to come out. And so when Dateline was going to come out, that's when I knew it was a major problem, because somebody was going to. Back then, people watched TV. Back then, there's like there's cable. There's 100 channels, but people watch maybe 15 of them. Most of them are movie channels. So the local news people watch. Like, there's some stuff people watch. And Dateline was huge back then. So they were about to do a 1 hour thing on me. So I was like, I'm leaving. I got to leave, like, the United States. So I figured, if as soon as it came out, like just before it came out, if I moved like to Australia and stayed low for a while, I would be okay. And so I started refinancing some of these properties, and I'm going to pull out maybe $2-3 million and leave. And Australia was great too, because Australia, you could go there and become a permanent resident alien. If you just showed up with $200,000 in a business plan, you were good. So I'm going to show up not as Matt Cox, but as I had a completely clean ID, the whole thing. So I was going to do that, and I started removing money out of the banks, and my girlfriend at the time ended up telling a friend of hers who I was.
Ooh. And
she turned me in to the Secret Service. So they watched the house for 3 days, and then one day I come home, and boom, they pounce on me. I get arrested.
Wow.
Good times.
Right? I bet.
Good times.
I bet.
It was a bad day. It was a bad day. It was a bad day because that was a Thursday, and I remember on Friday, the new James Bond movie was coming out. And the whole week I'd been telling my girlfriend, on Friday I want to see James Bond. She was like, okay, we'll go. She's like, hey, we're going to do this on... I was like, yeah, we can do that on Saturday. That's fine. But on Friday, we're going to see James Bond. So when they arrested me and they put the cuffs on me, I remember thinking, and they came in, they looked at me and they go, you're Matt Cox, aren't you? I remember thinking, fuck, I'm not going to see James Bond. There's no way I'm going to get to see that movie. I saw that movie like 5 years later.
You told you were James Bond? No. That could have been funny as fuck. Oh my God. Well, Matt, I mean, wow. And then obviously you got sentenced, and you did about 12 years or so.
12 and a half years.
And you've been out about almost 2 years.
18 months. 18 months. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very weird to be out here.
Totally different.
Oh my! It's like stepping into the future, bro.
Yeah.
Stepping in, it's just bizarre. Like, everything is off. Like the cell phone, like my cell phone.
Yeah.
It's just magic. My cell phone could do anything. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Probably when you went in, they had the little.
I had the razor. Do you remember the razor?
The razor, yeah.
The razor, and it was the baddest thing out.
Yeah, Apple put all those phones to rest.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I can't, and I tried to use an Android.
And then Android, copy Apple.
Yeah.
Edgar is an Apple fan. I mean, an Android fan.
Yeah, Android, I can't even use Android. It's too hard. Apple, so like dummy proof. Anybody can use it. Like, it's
Super easy.
That's what
Tweet it. Yeah.
I have to have that because
And what do you? And let's talk about a little bit, just a couple, 2 minutes, so that way we can wrap it up. What are you getting? You working? What are you doing now? You like me? You going like places? You did the David, Patrick. You doing me? What you doing? A few things here and there. What is it that you're doing right now to get acclimate? Get used to now to the new life. The new experience that you're living right now. What are you doing right now?
I mean, right now, I when I was in prison, I wrote about 24 stories for guys, like true crime stories. So I got a publishing deal. I got some guys in Rolling Stone magazines. I wrote Ephraim Deveroli's memoir. I've written a couple guys' memoirs. Then I just started writing straight true crime. And I wrote a bunch of synopses. I got out.
You have a website?
Yeah, I have a website. It's InsideTrueCrime.com. And also on YouTube, my channel is Matt Cox and Inside True Crime. So I'm doing podcasts. I have my own channel. And then I also sell paintings. I have a degree, like my degree's in fine arts.
What was the website again?
My website is InsideTrueCrime.com. And then the YouTube one is Matt Cox. The YouTube is Matthew Cox and Inside True Crime. And so, I do that, and I sell painting. I have a painting. My website, my YouTube channel for my website is Cox Pop Art. So I sell painting. Listen, I make good money selling paintings, and I have books. I have 7 books on Amazon, and my own personal memoirs on Amazon, which is Shark in the Housing Pool. Plus, my goal in prison, when I was in prison, was basically write these stories, get out, and get them turned into movies or documentaries or series, docuseries, whatever. Yep. And so right now I've got a couple of them in flux that's actually happening. And I'm also going to be doing a true crime podcast with a guy by the name of Davey Rothbart. And we should start filming that. Is it filming when it's just audio? Whatever, recording. We should start
podcasting.
We should start recording.
All the kids call it podcasting, audio podcasting.
Well, I should be doing podcasting here in the next few months. We'll probably start shooting episodes.
Is it going to be just audio? Are you going to?
Yeah, I think it's just they're just talking about audio. Gotcha. Like they're talking about putting it on like Spotify or Apple or iTunes or something like that. Like I don't know. It's a production company. They're going to sell it to one of these large venues that will give them a budget and the whole thing. But it looks good to me so far. It looks great. So that's what I'm doing.
I have a little idea. I'll talk to you probably later. I email you and also with Taylor too. I already spoken to him, and I have a little idea, something really cool. So I'll talk to you. I don't want to mention anything live, but I'll talk to you about it a little bit later and go from there. Matt, any just to finish, any words of wisdom to whoever because this is related mortgage real estate industry. What
what's funny is here's the thing, it's like you hear my story, like I have these guys that are subscribed to my channel and they're like, bro, you're the best, man, you're awesome, you're this, you're that, and I love your story and I love this, and it's like I always wonder, it's like when you hear the story it sounds great, but people always skip right over 12 and a half years in prison. I have a son that doesn't talk to me. My father died while I was in prison. I have like all of my friends that I thought were friends, they completely abandoned you. Like all these people that were in my life when I was making a ton of money and doing this that I thought were my friends, they were never really friends. Like, when you're in that lifestyle and you have that kind of money and you're doing that. Look, when you're acting
people flock to you.
Right. When you're acting like a scumbag, scumbags flock to you. And, and the truth is, I'm acting like a scumbag. I'm a narcissist and it was all about me and I didn't care about anybody else or how it affected anybody else. And, you think I can continue to behave this way and it won't catch up with me. Somehow, some way, it will catch up with you. And in some form or fashion, you will pay for it. And that's just what happened is I paid for it. It sounds great right now. Like, hey, you're out, you're doing this, you're doing... Really? Well, if you want to be 51 years old and start over with no money at all at 51, come on, man. Yeah. Bro, give me a break. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. This was Matt Cox. Watch it on the all the apps after 24/7 streaming on Mortflix. Look on all the apps: Apple TV, Roku, Spotify, where iHeartRadio, everywhere. Really, thank you. And this was a great interview. Thank you again, Matt. And hopefully we can collaborate in the future on something, and we'll figure it out. And thank you everybody for watching. See you soon.